Welcome to the Home Education with Ease podcast. I'm your host, Christine Furman, a homeschool mom, entrepreneur, and educator with over 20 years of experience in the areas of elementary and special education. It's my mission to help you create lifelong learners and embrace a holistic approach to education at home. I'll be sharing practical strategies, inspiration, and resources to support your family. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom, a business owner, or balancing work and homeschool, you're in the right place to connect with a community that values education just as much as you do. Join us each week as we ditch the stress, embrace the joy of learning, and set your family up for a lifetime of success. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to the Home Education with Ease podcast. I'm your host, Christine Furman, your home education expert. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. This month of January, we really have been talking about setting our goals, staying healthy. We talked all about home remedies last week, but the 2 weeks prior to that, we talked about setting yourself up for success this year. What does that look like? I had a special guest with us at the end of December, Dr. Shelley Hipsky. I highly recommend you checking out that episode. And then at the beginning of this year, I shared how my husband and I went through all of the different areas of our lives, and we talked about, we shared different questions, and we reflected on what are some of the things that could change in the areas that we were talking about, and what are some of the things that we are so happy with. And how can we make those small changes to really set ourselves up for success in 2026? So as I was recording that episode, it hit me that I was like, oh, I want to do this live with you guys. So we will be having a class, and I'll be sharing more information at the end of this episode, all about setting you and your family up for success in 2026. Because it's so important, and it's something that sometimes we just need to take some time and say, oh, all right, we need to really look at these different areas and adjust them for this particular season. And then something else that I have really been diving into is something called a 12-week year, and it's breaking the year up into 12 weeks. So basically into the quarters and setting yourself up for success in that 12-week period. So I know for me, I am a last-minute procrastinator. I know it's not the best quality to have, that's for sure. But knowing that there is a tighter timeline to say this needs done in this amount of time, oh man, you better believe I'm going to get on that goal a lot faster than if it's the goal for the whole year. So we're going to talk all about that in the live class, and I would love for you to be there. So more information about that at the end of this episode. But today, what we're going to be talking about is setting learning goals for you and your kids. So we talked about the family, we talked about health and wellness. Now we're going to talk about your kids, right? Are you a homeschool mom? Are you a mom with young kiddos that has the desire to, one, you're home with your kids right now, and you are teaching them all of these educational activities, building a foundation for them, and then you have the desire to homeschool them when the time comes, or basically you're already doing that, right? I realized that during the 2020 year, where I was basically already running a preschool out of my home by having live classes, by teaching my kids with all of these instructional activities or educational activities, by having, educational posters on the wall, and really making our time intentional. Even if sometimes life felt busy, I was still intentional without knowing it sometimes, with the items that maybe we were bringing into the house, with what I was allowing them to watch on TV, with how we were interacting throughout the whole day. Whenever I was with them, they were with me. They were in the laundry room, learning how to sort laundry, putting it in the washer at 16 months old, because they're curious. They're excited to learn new things. And you need to embrace that. They were right with me in the kitchen when I was cooking dinner, and we would sing songs together. And I look back and I think, oh my goodness, that time just seemed like it flew by and it was just a blur. But then I think of those moments of like, but you know what? They were sitting right there with me. I was with them. I was present. I read them stories every single night. I sang them songs. So sometimes we can get into these seasons. I'm trying not to cry here, guys. It's a very emotional time here, thinking back to, the times when, oh my goodness, I sometimes I think, oh, I wish I was more present during that time. But if you sit down and you reflect for just a moment, you realize like, but I was there. I was reading them stories. Maybe my mind wasn't there, right? Mom brain gets in the way during that time. But what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to help moms to be able to sit in the season of life that they're in, to really enjoy those moments, embrace every single one of them, and be present and peaceful. Because I know what it's like to have that overwhelmed feeling. When the kids were little, they were about 3 and 5, maybe even 2 and 4, when I started this business. And as a mom, first I was a teacher, right? I was in the classroom and I was teaching and I would work and they weren't with me, right? So I would have undivided time. Not really. I was teaching and I had other kids with me, right? So I maybe had a planning period, or maybe I'd have to come into school early or stay later, or maybe work on the weekends and in the evenings. That's what we do as teachers, right? So as a mom, then being home with my kids, trying to start a business, that was eye-opening for me, because I would get up at 5 a.m. before they would wake up, and I would set these big goals. And if I didn't complete those goals before the kids got up, and if they got up too early, I was so frustrated. I felt like a failure already. And guess what time it was? It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I already felt like I failed the day. So my goal is to really help you understand that we can set goals for the season of life that we're in and make them smaller, attainable goals, and make them fit with the flow of our family. Because when we're setting big goals, yes, it's amazing to reach those big goals and set them and, reach for the stars. Absolutely. But to set a goal and then feel like a failure because we didn't reach it, that's hard. And that's definitely not what I want. So it's not about setting more goals or not necessarily doing more, but maybe it's about that clarity and the alignment for your family and that peace. I know that I was searching for all of that when I was starting a business, raising the kids when they were toddlers, and just trying to kind of like figure it all out. How do I raise toddlers, be present in all moments, start a business, take care of my health, be mom, right? And this continues. Those questions still continue. I always say it, being a homeschool mom, that's a job in itself. Being mom is a job in itself. Having a job outside of the home, that's a job in itself. Being a business owner, a job in itself. All of those are jobs in themselves, and we are doing them. They all coincide for us, right? So how do we find that flow? Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the learning goals. How are we going to make learning easier for our families and our kids and for us when we're planning? How do we plan that to say, okay, well, where are we at in this season of life? Right? That's what we have to kind of sit with and say, what does this look like for us? Does it look like we are busier with outside activities from our home, right? Like in this season of life for us, Ella and Alex just started theater. So that means that they are outside of the home 2 days a week for 2.5, 3 hours. That's different than it's ever been for us. They love it, by the way. They're doing Lion King Jr., and Ella is Timon, and she is hilarious. Alex is on the ensemble, and at first he was heartbroken, right? We got these, what they were, right? The cast call on Sunday, last Sunday, and we just finished our Costco shopping, and I get the email, and they both get in the car, and as I'm saying this, I'm at the back of the car while Dan and I are loading the groceries. Well, actually, Dan was loading the groceries. I was reading my email, but the kids are getting in the car, and I read who they, I'm looking at it, and I see, Ella, you have Timon. Alex, you're on the ensemble, right? He was really trying for Zazu or young Simba, and he was heartbroken. But Ella was ecstatic. So my mom heart was broken into two because I was like, I'm so excited for Ella, but I'm so heartbroken for Alex, And even though I shared with them at the beginning, like, listen, this is your very first year in theater. You may not get a lead role. And just know that and be okay with that, So that was a challenging moment as a mom, right? I'm sure you've been there. I'm sure you've been in these positions where your heart is pulled in two different directions. Man, no one prepares you for that stuff, do they? So that is a new season for us, that they're going to be in theater, that we're going to have costume, fittings, and we're going to have tech week in April, and we're going to have performances in May. That's a different season. So while, yes, they are out of the house for a couple hours and I get some quiet time to work uninterrupted, that's beautiful. And I've been able to kind of, sit with that a little bit and say, okay, well, what am I going to focus on during those few hours when they're not in the house? And then the other part of it is, well, that changes our schedule because that's the morning of Tuesday and Thursday. They're not with me in the mornings. So what does that look like? Well, yes, that is part of their school, right? They are learning public speaking. They are interacting. They are getting into character. They are dancing. They are singing. All of that. You guys know me. All of that is part of school, 100%. But where are we going to fit in some of the other things that we need to do? So our schedule shifted, and we have to work a little bit in the afternoon, after lunch, after maybe a walk, giving their minds a break. And last week was the first week we did that. And I noticed, even Alex noticed, that on Tuesday when we tried to sit down and do work, it was a little bit more difficult for them, right? They had already exerted so much energy and effort in the morning during theater that then in the afternoon, they were like, whoa, I'm a little bit more tired. I'm a little bit more fatigued, can't focus as well. And Alex then decided the next few days that he was going to get up early and do his work in the morning before that even happened, before anything else happened. He wanted to get up, get it done, and get out of the way. And then we were able to reflect on it, during our time, but he was able to adjust. And guys, that takes time for us to figure out what that adjustment looks like. Is that our schedule? Is that the activities that we do, right? I made a schedule then after I realized that and said, okay, so Tuesdays and Thursdays are going to be more of sure, let's review and let's go over our skills, but how can we do that in a more hands-on way, in a way that we are up moving? How can we take the skills that we're learning and maybe do science experiments or get in the kitchen or do a math activity where we're up and we're exploring and we're practicing, right? And playing a game. So we had to adapt and we had to change it up a little bit. So think about that. Where are you at in your season? And what kind of changes do you need to make? Think about your schedule, your spouse's schedule. My husband travels for work. When the kids were little, that changed things a lot. It doesn't change things as much now, but when they were little, it did change a lot because I knew that I wasn't going to have as much energy as I had as when he was home. So either I was out of the house more and we were doing more activities, or I was home more and I was just reserving my energy. And of course, this all goes with our cycles too. I've just finished a book about that, Cycle Syncing Your Business, which I'm going to have the author on here at some point because I read her book, started reading it, dove into it last year, talked all about it in one of my episodes, and then I never had her on the show. So we will definitely have her this year because it is so mind-blowing because there are certain times during the month that you have way more energy, and there are certain times that you have less energy. And what activities you do during that time matter. Doesn't mean that you just don't do anything. We're shifting, though. What are we doing during those times? So I love that. Stay tuned for more on that because it is fascinating to me, and I just keep diving into it more and more. But think about that. Are there surgeries or health needs that you have to take care of? Are there specific activities or work or traveling, not even like you're for work, but maybe for the summer, right? Or vacation. Maybe you have a vacation planned in the winter. Think about the seasons. How does that change your schedule? I know up north, when it's cold out, I definitely did not want to go outside nearly as much, right? Even here, we are having a cold snap here for this week. And I'm like, whew, the 30s, that's cold, and I know that's not that cold. But when you're used to 40s, 50s, that's a little chillier. And even last week, it was 80 degrees. I mean, how do you go from an 80-degree day to snow? I mean, there was snow in Georgia on this Sunday, this week. So it's just crazy. So think about those kind of things. What can you take on during this season, right? Mentally, physically, what can you take on? If you have a big project for work, you might not want to be taking on extra projects for homeschool or for your health, or right? Where are you sharing or divvying up your energy, right? Think about field trips. Do you have time in this season? And think about it just as a season, just for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. What does that look like for you? Is there time to schedule a couple field trips in there? Or is this a time where it's like, you know what? We are going to turn inward and we're going to focus on our family right now. Maybe, I know for us, for the holidays, we travel a lot. So come January, February, and even March, I'm like, you know what? I am protecting our time in our home and our space and my schedule because I really want to focus on my kids' foundation. I want to make sure we're going over the correct skills. I want to make sure we're going over the correct lessons and making sure they're getting what they need. Maybe you are able to take on some extra projects with the kids, right? Maybe it's a great time to learn how to sew, or maybe it's a great time to go to a Spanish class or a sign language class. Like, oh, you know what? This is a slower season for us. Let's find something that we want to do. Maybe it's making sure that you're getting some park dates in there and some meetups and play dates, things like that. You know what? This is really important. We need to make sure we do this once a week or once a month. What does that look like for you? And we're going to go over all of this in our live class coming up at the end of this month, setting your family up for success in 2026. So stay tuned for that. Definitely more info. But don't forget, when you are looking at your life goals or your learning goals for your kids, right? Think about what you want to include in that. Ask your kids what they want to learn about. What are they excited about in this season? my daughter Ella, she loves dogs and she just is eating it all up. And maybe that's not what we are learning about in school, right? When we have our school time, but that's something that on her own time, in her independent time, she is researching and she is reading and she is listening to podcasts about dogs and starting her own business and creating her own flyers. And right, she is just embracing that. So what is something that they are interested in? Lean into that for them. Is that something that you can incorporate into your lessons? Or is it something that you can say, okay, you know what? This is something that, here's some more information that you can learn about. And tell me what you learned. Because that's what they want to do. They want to read and they want to learn new things and they want to share it. Today, prime example, Ella read this book. It was all about 9/11 and she was just fascinated with it. And she was just, even before we got out of the car, we were getting ready to go to Costco and she was like, just all of this information. She just couldn't wait to share it with us. And even we get back in the car and she was reading more about it and just was sharing it. And then guess what? It led into a conversation. We were able to talk more about 9/11. Where were we during that time? Why is it so fascinating for younger kids when for older kids, it's something, or for adults, it is something that is traumatic. And that's what this author was talking about. She was saying like, this was a tragic and a traumatic event for me. And every time she would write or she would go speak at schools, kids would always ask her, are you going to write about 9/11? And she didn't want to for many years. And then she did. Because those kids in the schools, they weren't even born most of the time, right? So they are just interested. When they are interested in things like that, let them dive in. That is how I structure the EduPlay learning curriculum. So we do have structure. I do have skills that we teach, but it's also about what are we interested in, right? So each week we have new topics and we could say, okay, you know what? January is the perfect month. I always talk about polar bears, right? So it's the perfect month because it's cold, they're winter animals, things like that, right? And I love that because then we could dive in and we could talk about, their habitat. We could read chapter books. We can find picture books. We can do snow experiments. We're going to be doing crystal experiments and different things like that because that's stuff that Alex is excited about. He loves science. He loves building. He loves making things. And how can we take the winter months, right, where I typically talk about snow and polar bears and different things like that, and now we just continue to grow the curriculum, right? Well, now let's grow crystals. Let's talk about, these different experiments and just dive into them, right? We also, enjoy recipes that go along with the topic, songs, math activities, reading activities. I have a whole polar bear collection and it's all about that. I have a recipe where you make a polar bear with your yogurt. We have songs that we sing. We have math activities that we play that involve, I think the polar bear one is different shapes. And there's reading activities. What are some polar bear facts? So taking that one topic and diving in, and that could be any topic. And it could be all multisensory and fun and meaningful. And then your kids they just learn so much more when they're exploring it in all those different ways. And I know it makes learning so much more fun when you're changing it up and you're just having a good time with that. So ask your kids, what are they interested in? What do they like to learn about? And how can you take a topic that your kids are interested in and dive into it? How can you turn it into an EduPlay learning collection where we find chapter books and We have recipes and we have songs and math activities and reading activities. Well, if you need help with that, feel free to reach out, because that's what I love. I love taking those topics, planning and preparing those ideas for you and your family, and then mapping it all out together. So that's something that we could do together. And that's what I love to do, is I love to help families walk through that step by step. And we're going to be diving into that even more in the Set Your Family Up for Success 2026 live class. Because I know you don't need more ideas, but you need a framework. You need that clear cut, what do I do next? I totally get that. So be sure, check out the links in the show notes, because there's a link there for the setting yourself up for success, or setting up your family for success. You can fill out that questionnaire, and it just provides me with a little bit more information, and then I will share all the details with you. And then if you are interested in just a one-to-one session with me, you can send me an email, or you can fill out that same questionnaire, and you could say, listen, I really want to do this class, but I also want to do a one-to-one, or I just want to do a one-to-one class, one-to-one with you. Those are some things that you can definitely do, because that's really what I love helping you do, is taking these ideas and mapping it all out. What does it look like? So you can take that framework and implement it with your family. And then think about too, whenever you're coming up with your learning goals for your family, what are the values you want your kids to have and that you want to teach, you want to instill in them? What does that look like? Confidence, independence, kindness, curiosity, all of those things and so much more. What are the values you want for your family, for your children, that are going to last with them for a lifetime? That's what we're all about here. That is such my mission, of helping you be able to teach confidently, raise kind, independent, confident kids, and all with peace and purpose and joy. And just enjoy every minute, embrace every minute. And what if your goals were all aligned? What if you were able to map it all out and you had a plan specific for your family? What if it felt like more direction, more peace, more confidence in your role as a mom, as an educator? What about even for your kids? What about building up their confidence? Because they know what's expected. That's what they want. They want to know what's expected of them. And they want to know what's next. What's next? And what if it was more fun for everyone? It's my favorite thing as an educator, a mentor, to hear my clients say to me, wow, I actually enjoy this. They're picking up these new skills and it feels easy. Everything's starting to flow and be peaceful in our home. Man, that makes me so happy to see moms step into their power in whatever role that is, an educator, a homeschool mom, a new mom, a business owner, all of the above, a working mom. But I love to be able to help you set up that framework to say, yes, this is really how to get that peace in my home. Because that's really what it's about. Embracing each moment, being present and having that peace. So if you are looking for that and purpose and confidence in your role as a homeschool mom, I'm personally inviting you to join me for the first live class of the year, Setting Your Family Up for Success in 2026. We're going to look at all areas of your life and ask reflective questions. We're going to set up a plan for this season of life. What does this season look like? We're going to discuss learning goals, family goals, and so much more. Click that link in the show notes, fill out that questionnaire, and I will share with you more information and when we're going to have it. So we're going to have it on January 30th, I believe. Let me check. Yes, that's a Friday. It's January 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And I will share all of the information with you when you fill out that questionnaire. And remember, that link is in the show notes there for more information. If you have any questions, feel free. My email is there. Send me an email or find me on social media and send me a quick DM. Let me know what questions you have. And one final thing I want to know is, what are the learning goals you have for this season? So join me in the Home Education with Ease Facebook group and share your learning goals for your kids in this season. It doesn't have to be for the whole year, but maybe just for this month, right? Whatever's left of it, right? We're already at the middle of the month. It's flying by. January normally takes forever to get through. And this year, I don't know why, but it is just flying by. So let us know, what are some of the learning goals that you have in this season in the Home Education with Ease Facebook group. Well, thank you guys so much. Be sure to check out those links in the show notes, and I will see you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Home Education with Ease podcast. I hope today's episode left you feeling empowered and ready to take the next steps on your home education journey. Your support means the world to me. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. For even more resources, be sure to join the free Facebook group, Home Education with Ease, and visit eduplaylearning.com to explore our programs and subscription kits. You can find the links and any other links mentioned in this episode in the show notes below. Remember, you're not alone. This community is here to support you every step of the way.